If your dog has any sort of behavioral issues or problems, you've come to the right place. Desensitization and counterconditioning have become almost like buzzwords in the dog training world, but a lot of people don't explain what they are or how they work and why they work. So today I want to go over those two concepts and how they could be applied to fix 99% of your dog's issues. And stay till the end because I'm going to go over some examples of problems that can be fixed with desensitization and counterconditioning. Even though desensitization and counterconditioning are technically two different techniques/concepts, they're most often used together and often kind of intertwined in training. You'll see by the end of this video why that is and how to use them. Desensitization is exactly what it sounds like. It is the process of minimizing your dog's reaction/sensitivity to a trigger by exposing them to this trigger at a long distance or a low volume, and then gradually increasing the intensity of that trigger until your dog has basically no reaction anymore. For example, if you watched my video on overcoming firework anxiety/fear in dogs, we did a classic desensitization example of exposing your dog to the sound of fireworks at a super low volume and then working your way up. That is the prime example of this technique in real life problems. Now, counterconditioning, put super simply, is changing the way our dog reacts to something. And this means literally changing their brain's emotional response to something, not just changing the physical thing that they do when they see a trigger. And counterconditioning is just the process of changing that reaction your dog has to a trigger from negative to positive. For example, if your dog lunges at other dogs out of fear or aggression or whatever it is, counterconditioning can help them change that reaction from being, oh my god, I'm so scared or angry and I'm gonna lunge at that dog, to being, oh look, a dog, this means good things because mom's gonna give me a treat. Eventually your dog's response changes entirely through the process of counterconditioning, which is usually by exposing your dog to a trigger. Again, this is where desensitization kind of intertwines, but it's through the process of desensitization at a very low level. So again, if your dog lunges at other dogs, you're going to create a big distance between you and that dog. And then counterconditioning comes in, where you're going to start giving your dog a treat every single time that he looks at the dog very calmly. And then soon you're going to start reprogramming his brain and how he reacts, and also just decrease the amount of stress he feels when he sees a certain trigger. That's the basic methodologies of both desensitization and counterconditioning, and it's the groundwork and fundamentals for basically every dog training video, at least on our channel. And it should be the groundwork and fundamentals of most dog training videos that you watch if they're science-backed and effective methods. But for now, let's go over some examples of where these two techniques are used. First of all, an example again is reactivity. I won't go too far into details in this video because that's a lot, but if your dog is reactive of a certain trigger, you're going to want to use these two techniques together. Start by creating a large distance between you and your dog's trigger. This could be other dogs, cars, people, bicycles, whatever. And every time your dog looks calmly at that trigger, give them a treat. Then move up the standards where you're going to still keep that large distance, but every time your dog looks back at you, give them a treat. Again, we're trying to counter-condition here. We're trying to change the response from getting angry, barking, lunging to looking at you for the treat. As they get better, move closer and closer, and soon enough you can walk calmly by a trigger. But again, it takes a lot of time because counter-conditioning and desensitization, again, are changes in your dog's behavior and emotional response to triggers. A final example is the example of firework anxiety again. If your dog is fearful, you want to desensitize them to the volume while also counter-conditioning them to respond to the sound of fireworks or even the visual of fireworks with something positive. You can watch a more in-depth video about firework anxiety and how to train your dog out of it with a video linked here on the screen. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.